If your child has been diagnosed with autism, attention deficit, or learning disorder, there's a 75% chance antibodies are literally blocking a critical vitamin from entering their brain. And this isn't rare, and it's not genetic in most cases. And in many kids, it's at least partially reversible, especially if you can address it before your child is 5 years old. Most doctors never mention it, not because they're hiding anything. It is not taught in medical school, insurance doesn't cover the testing, and there isn't an expensive pharmaceutical drug to hand you. Recently, Leucovorin, which is a prescription form of folate, was added to the clinical recommendations for autism. And this announcement caused a lot of confusion and backlash in the autism community. I'm Dr. Ben Lynch. I spent over 15 years studying folate metabolism and how to restore brain function. And in this video, I want to address 2 key points that this announcement did not have time to do. Why Leucovorin is not a silver bullet, and why focusing only on this medication misses a huge part of the story. And here's what's really happening and what you can do about it. Doctors are prescribing 5 to 25 milligrams of Leucovorin to bypass blocked folate pathways and to force folate into your child's brain. They are cramming this folate through tiny backup routes that handle only 5% of folate transport. And it does work for many kids. But if you remove what's blocking the other 95% of folate transport, you can give a fraction of what is needed, 800 micrograms, and you can get better results. Your brain has 3 ways to transport folate past the protective blood-brain barrier and into the brain. The main route handles 75 to 85% of all folate transport, and the secondary route handles only about 10 to 20%, and then the backup route handles a measly 5%. When the main route gets blocked by antibodies, which happens about 75% of the time in children with autism, Leucovorin has to use the other 2 backup routes, which are the secondary route and the backup. And that's only about 15 to 25% of normal capacity. But it gets worse. If your child is still consuming folic acid, it does clog up the secondary route, reducing its function. And we're not even done there. If they have low vitamin D or low glutathione, which is your body's master antioxidant, and low glutathione comes from poor diet, Tylenol, infections, this backup route becomes further inaccessible, losing another 20 to 40% of its capacity. So now you're no longer working with 15 to 25% capacity. Your child might be only down to 5 or 10%. And that is why doctors need to give 25,000 micrograms of Leucovorin, because they're literally forcing massive amounts through a narrow, damaged pathway, hoping enough gets through. It's literally like sending 25,000 cars down 2 side streets because the 4-lane highway is blocked. And one of those side streets is also under construction. And yes, some cars get through. And that is why Leucovorin does work for some kids. Language does improve, communications improve, behaviors improve. But here's the problem. Kids improve initially, and then they plateau. And the parents think it stopped working. No. The doctors never addressed the blockages. What if you could actually reopen the main highway? You clear the secondary route. You repair the backup road. You actually can. How? There are 3 things that you need to do. You remove the folic acid that's clogging the primary and secondary routes. You optimize the vitamin D to maximize the backup route's capacity. And then you support glutathione gently to restore function that's been damaged by oxidative stress. In about a month's time, these backup pathways can work at a significantly improved capacity once again. And you don't need to use 25,000 micrograms of Leucovorin anymore. You might actually only need 800 micrograms, and even that may be too much. So before you start high-dose Leucovorin, ask your doctor 2 questions. Hey doc, what's blocking my kid's folate from entering their brain? And can we address these issues while we start the Leucovorin? Most docs won't have an answer. And it's not because they don't care, it's because they are not taught this in medical school. The antibodies blocking folate aren't random, and they're not genetic. They're triggered by 2 things: synthetic folic acid, and this has been added to the food supply since 1998, and the other, dairy protein, which 71 to 76% of kids with autism react to by producing folate receptor antibodies. In 2005, a European doctor named Dr. Raymakers was doing spinal taps on kids with neurological issues. He kept finding the same thing: critically low folate in their cerebral spinal fluid, even though their blood folate levels were normal. Their brains were literally starving for folate. but it could not get in. And then this doc partnered with Dr. Quadros, who later discovered that these kids had folate receptor antibodies. Their immune system was attacking the very receptors designed to transport folate into their brain. And your body just doesn't make antibodies which attack itself. These docs knew they had to figure out what was triggering these antibodies, and they found a trigger: dairy protein. And it doesn't seem to matter if it's cow dairy or goat dairy. The structure of dairy protein mimics the folate receptor just enough that when kids consume dairy, their immune system makes antibodies against it. And those antibodies cross-react with their own folate receptor. Studies now show that 71 to 70% of these children with autism have these antibodies. That's bad, especially since it is not addressed. But what makes it even worse? Folic acid. Folic acid, the unnatural, non-human form of folate, added to your bread, cereal, pasta, prenatal vitamins, and infant formula. And folic acid preferentially binds to the same folate receptors as your good biologically available folate. So even if the dairy antibodies weren't completely blocking the folate receptor, folic acid is occupying the space where natural folate should be binding. But isn't folate good? Did I lose you? Here's an analogy that makes you realize how toxic folic acid is compared to real natural folate. You know carbon monoxide. It's bad. It's actually so bad that it can kill you. But how does it kill you? Here's how. Your red blood cells use hemoglobin to carry oxygen throughout your body. But when carbon monoxide is present, it binds to your hemoglobin 200 times stronger than oxygen. So even though you're breathing in plenty of air with plenty of oxygen, your blood can't carry it. The carbon monoxide bound all the seats, and fiercely, your tissues starve for oxygen even though oxygen is everywhere. And this is exactly what folic acid does to your child's brain. Folic acid performs no biological effect in the human body. None. It's garbage. I have a link to another video for you to learn about this in the description below. This garbage folic acid binds to folate receptors about 3 times more strongly than natural, usable, biologically available forms of folate. When your child consumes folic acid from fortified cereals, bread, or supplements, that synthetic folic acid grabs onto the receptors and it won't let go. The natural folate, the kind that the brain actually needs, it can't get through. It's stuck in the blood. This is why kids can have normal or even high folate levels in their blood, but critically low folate levels in their brain. Studies have shown that when children with cerebral folate deficiency were given high-dose folic acid, their brain levels didn't improve. In fact, they got worse. And when they stopped the folic acid, their brain folate normalized. Folic acid was the problem, not the solution. This is why folic acid is literally contraindicated, meaning actively harmful, and you must avoid it in cerebral folate deficiency. The National Organization for Rare Disorders clearly states it. Folic acid supplementation is not recommended because it can worsen symptoms and even trigger seizures. It's like trying to unlock your front door using the wrong key. The key fits, but it doesn't unlock the door. You can't get in. The folic acid fits, but it can't get in. And the only way to get in is you got to remove the wrong key and use the right one. The same goes for folate, and you should. And here's how you can get folate into your kid's brain. If your child has autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, or behavioral issues, eliminate 2 things completely. All dairy: cow milk, goat milk, A2 milk, raw milk, cheese, yogurt, kefir, ice cream, it doesn't matter. Dairy as a whole must be eliminated. Ghee, which is clarified butter, may actually be tolerated because it's pure fat with minimal protein. And then you have to eliminate all folic acid. Check every supplement label. Avoid fortified foods because the fortified foods is where you can find folic acid. And that's bread, cereal, pasta, energy bars, drinks, infant formula. And this isn't a try it and see situation. You have to commit 100%. Even 1 bite of dairy triggers antibodies that can persist for weeks to months. In 1998, the FDA mandated folic acid fortification of the food supply to prevent neural tube defects. It kind of worked for that. More on that in a future video. Here's what they didn't account for. Folic acid is not the same as folate. Your body wants 0 folic acid. It has no biological effect on the body in its unnatural state. Folic acid has to be processed by folate enzymes in order to have any biological effect. And when you overwhelm the enzymes that process folic acid, the folic acid blocks the very receptors you need to get real folate into your brain and into your kid's brain. Folic acid is completely synthetic. It does not exist in nature. Your body has to convert it through an enzyme called DHFR, which is dihydrofolate reductase. And that enzyme is extremely slow. Just 200 micrograms of folic acid overwhelms it. And when DHFR gets overwhelmed, two bad things happen. First, unmetabolized folic acid, which is just folic acid, builds up in your bloodstream and blocks your folate receptors. This means you don't get real folate into your brain. Second, DHFR can't do its real job, which is not processing folic acid. It's actually recycling a compound called biopterin. Biopterin is what your brain uses to make dopamine, serotonin, and nitric oxide. So the consequence of folic acid blocking folate transport and recycling biopterin massively reduce neurotransmitter production and reduce blood flow. This explains why kids with cerebral folate deficiency have the specific symptoms they do. Low dopamine leads to movement disorders, low motivation, learning issues, attention problems, and muscle rigidity. Low serotonin leads to mood issues, anxiety, OCD, poor sleep, constipation, headaches, potentially migraines. Low nitric oxide leads to reduced blood flow to the brain and, as a result, cognitive impairment. What's ironic is that folic acid is contraindicated in cerebral folate deficiency, meaning if your child has this condition, giving them folic acid makes the condition worse. They know this, but they still give folic acid to pregnant women, infants, and everyone on the planet? We are all somewhat cerebral folate deficient. Just where on the spectrum are we? Go through your pantry right now. Throw out any supplements folic acid on the label. Throw away and avoid fortified foods, breads, cereals, pastas, energy bars, and processed snacks. And while you won't find natural folates on food labels, you will find them on supplement labels. Look for methylfolate. And methylfolate has many different types of names. It's sometimes listed as 5-MTHF or L5-MTHF, or many other ways. The key is seeing methyl in front of folate. Folinic acid, sometimes it's listed as 5-formyl tetrahydrofolate or calcium folinate. Leucovorin is simply the pharmaceutical version of folinic acid. Never ever use folic acid. Toss it, don't buy it. Even if you remove dairy and folic acid, your child's brain still might not be able to fully access folate because the backup pathways are impaired by oxidative stress, low vitamin D, and elevated homocysteine. This is why some kids don't respond to leucovorin even at high doses. The backup pathways themselves are not functioning. The backup pathways, the ones leucovorin has to use when the main highway is blocked, depend heavily on three key things. First, vitamin D. It literally turns on the backup pathways and increases their capacity. Studies show that vitamin D can increase brain folate up to 6-fold. If your child's vitamin D is low, which is below 40 on a blood test, those backup pathways simply cannot function at full capacity. Even 50,000 micrograms of leucovorin won't get through efficiently if vitamin D levels are low. It's like having a full tank of gas in your car, but the starter is out. The gas won't ignite. You have all the leucovorin you need, but it can't get through. Second, glutathione, your body's master antioxidant. Glutathione protects the backup pathways from oxidative damage. And when glutathione is low from poor diet, Tylenol use, infections, or chemical exposures from chlorine, formaldehyde, arsenic, the backup folate pathways lose another 20 to 40% of their function. It's like the backup roads developing potholes. The path is still there, but traffic slows to a crawl. Third is homocysteine. When elevated, homocysteine becomes an inflammatory compound that directly blocks folate from binding to the main receptor. And when homocysteine is elevated, usually from a lack of B vitamins, low glutathione, or genetics, it acts like a physical barrier. Even if you remove the dairy antibodies, the high homocysteine keeps the main highway blocked. If your child has low vitamin D, which is below 40 on a blood test, low glutathione from poor diet, Tylenol, common chemicals or infections, or high homocysteine, a compound from a lack of B vitamins, then even high-dose leucovorin won't work well. The pathways can't support it. And this is why Emma's case is so important. I'll tell you more about her case study in just a moment, but she was on 5 milligrams of leucovorin daily. After a few weeks, she became irritable and she couldn't sleep. When they removed the folic acid and dairy, they added small amounts of glutathione and hydroxycobalamin and dropped her leucovorin to 400 micrograms. She actually improved dramatically within just 1 week. Work with a practitioner to test your vitamin D levels in your child. Aim for 40 to 60, and some practitioners actually target 50 to 80 for neurological conditions. Support glutathione gently through glutathione lozenges, or you can use dietary sources, eggs, garlic, cruciferous veggies. Test and optimize homocysteine. The ideal range is 6 to 7, and you can support with vitamin B2, B6, B12, methylfolate, and trimethylglycine. Low homocysteine, below 5, is also an issue. You need to have homocysteine ideally around 6 to 7, and no one talks about low homocysteine. I will in a future video. I do have an article on it for you, though, in the description below. Talking point 5. About 23 to 35% of kids don't respond to leucovorin, even at high doses. That doesn't mean that the approach is wrong. That means if you have 100 kids using leucovorin, 35 of them aren't responding to treatment. That's not good, especially if it's your kid. This is why it's so important you realize that there are other issues you need to address and that you can address. Chronic infections, gut dysfunction, mitochondrial issues, or continued exposure to folic acid and dairy. I've seen parents do everything right. Remove the dairy, remove folic acid, balance the homocysteine, optimize the vitamin D, and they still don't see sufficient improvements. Then we dig deeper and we actually find something. Persistent gut infections are typically what's found. Candida, SIBO, parasites, burning through the glutathione and increasing inflammation. Chronic ear infections or sinus infections keep the immune system activated. Continued consumption of folic acid hidden in supplements, energy drinks, and protein bars. And even green tea, especially in higher amounts or extracts, contain compounds that can slow the DHFR enzyme needed to process folic acid, in addition to blocking the absorption of folate. You cannot out-supplement chronic infections. If your child's body is fighting an ongoing infection, it's burning through antioxidants constantly. The folate might be getting into the brain, but the brain cannot use it effectively because all the downstream pathways aren't functioning well. You resolve one problem only to find out you need to remove yet another one. Eventually, you remove a keystone problem, and suddenly, your child is back. It seems like the last thing you did was the magic bullet, but it was all the other foundational things as well which paved the way for that most recent intervention to be so effective. This is also why some kids improve on leucovorin initially and then plateau. The medication provided some support, but the root causes are still there. If your child isn't responding to leucovorin or dietary changes, test for gut infections and food allergies. I like to use the US Biotech IgG 98 food panel tests, and then you can address chronic infections as well. Then you also eliminate the foods that are triggering the immune system. Audit everything: the supplements, snacks, drinks. Folic acid hides in unexpected places. And avoid green tea during meals because it blocks folate absorption. But how many kids are sipping on green tea or matcha? This is more for the pregnant and breastfeeding moms out there. Emma was born to a mother who had 2 miscarriages. Her doctor prescribed 4 milligrams of folic acid daily, many times over the standard dosage. Emma struggled from day 1. By 6 months of age, she had severe developmental delays. She couldn't hold her head up. She wasn't gaining weight. And then as a result, doctors put her on 5 milligrams of leucovorin. She did improve a bit, and then she plateaued. Then a naturopathic doctor did something radical. On 5 milligrams of leucovorin alone, Emma had initial improvement, but plateaued 3 months in. The expanded treatment involved removing all folic acid, all dairy, reducing leucovorin to 400 micrograms, adding in vitamin D, adding in glutathione lozenges, and hydroxycobalamin. And within just 1 week, she slept through the night for the first time. Within a month, she had her first words. Emma's mother was doing what her doctor told her. Take high-dose folic acid to prevent miscarriage, and then give infant formula with folic acid. But that folic acid crossed the placenta and blocked Emma's folate receptors before she was even born. Then the dairy-based formula with added folic acid made it worse. The cheddar cheese goldfish crackers Emma loved were also a major factor as they contained everything that was bad: gluten, dairy, folic acid, not to mention the MSG and seed oils. This isn't about blaming the mother or the doctor. It's about understanding that public health guidelines don't account for individual biochemistry. It also shows that the government is extremely far behind where they need to be. Science has progressed, and the government is stuck, controlled by lobbyists. Talking point 7. Your doctor isn't withholding this information from you. They generally don't know. Medical schools don't teach folate receptor antibodies. They learn that folic acid is life-saving and health-promoting. Recommending that parents remove folic acid goes directly against FDA guidelines and public health policy. It's up to you to figure it out, and that's why you're here, and that's why I'm making these videos for you. I know you need help, and I know your kids need help. Dr. Raymakers discovered cerebral folate deficiency in 2005. Dr. Fry published research showing 75% of autism cases have folate receptor antibodies in 2013. The folate receptor autoantibody test, also known as FRAT, became commercially available around 2015. That's 10 to 20 years of research, but it's still not in medical textbooks. Pediatricians graduating today learn nothing about this in school, and they won't learn it. Big Pharma essentially governs what is taught in medical schools, and Big Pharma has no desire to solve this problem. In fact, they love it. And here's the bigger problem. Even if doctors know, they can't tell you to stop folic acid. The FDA mandates the fortification of your food and your supplements. The CDC recommends it for pregnancy. The American Council of Obstetricians and Gynecologists say pregnant women must take 400 to 800 micrograms of folic acid daily, even if MTHFR variants are present. All infant formula is mandated to have folic acid in it. For a doctor to say, don't take folic acid, they're going against federal guidelines. I'm right now going against federal guidelines, telling you these federal agencies and councils are flat out wrong. This is why you have to advocate for yourself. Your doctor isn't the enemy. They're operating within a system that doesn't recognize this condition. They don't cover the testing, they don't support the treatment, and they actively recommend the very things that make it worse. If your pediatrician says, I've never heard of this, bring them the research. Ask them to order the folate receptor autoantibody test. The link to the test is in the description below. If they won't, find a MAP certified physician or a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor who will help you. You don't need their permission to remove dairy or folic acid from your child's diet. You can do that right now, and you can do it for yourself as well. What do you do if your child has autism, learning difficulties, or ADHD, and you think this might be happening? Here's what you can start right now, without waiting for your doctor's approval, without expensive testing, and without a prescription. First, clean out your pantry. Go through every supplement bottle, every box of cereal, every protein bar, every energy drink. If it says folic acid on the label, toss it. It's garbage. This is non-negotiable. Folic acid should be contraindicated in all humans, regardless of health status. It's just an impediment. Second, eliminate all dairy, milk, cheese, yogurt, kefir, ice cream, A2, raw, cow, goat, no exceptions. This isn't try it for a week situation. You literally have to commit 100%. Even a sip of dairy can trigger antibodies that can persist for weeks. Ghee can be actually used because it's pure fat with minimal protein. Avoid green tea with meals. Third, test and optimize 3 things with a practitioner. Vitamin D, you want to target that from 40 to 60 range. Some practitioners actually opt for 50 to 80 for neurological conditions. Homocysteine, target 6 to 7 micromoles per liter, and you can support healthy homocysteine levels with vitamin B2, B6, B12, methylfolate, and TMG. You can order the folate receptor antibody test, and you can see what those levels are, and you can work on getting them down. These 4 things determine whether folate can actually get into their brain. Fourth, consider lower dose folinic acid, not high dose leucovorin. You can start with 200 to 800 micrograms, not 5,000 to 50,000. That's a lot. You can also use folinic acid lozenges, which provide 800 micrograms of folinic acid per lozenge. And then I recommend cutting the lozenge into quarters and starting low. They taste good and are well received by kids. Monitor for improvements in language, mood, sleep, and behavior. If you see side effects like irritability, insomnia, reduce the dose. Use the pulse method. Give it on days where the symptoms are worse, and skip it on the days that your kid is doing well. If you discover your kid actually needs really high doses of leucovorin, work with a compounding pharmacy to ensure purity. Commercial leucovorin often contains lactose, some vinyl plastic compound, and food coloring. Fifth, address underlying infections. If your child isn't responding to dietary changes, dig deeper. Test for gut infections, candida, SIBO, parasites. Address chronic ear infections or sinus infections or anything that's keeping the immune system activated. You cannot out-supplement a chronic infection. Sixth, support with glutathione, but gently. Glutathione, your body's master antioxidant, is key for folate transport and healthy levels of inflammation. You can use a glutathione lozenge that uses S-acetylglutathione, which is the most stable form, as that allows you to use small amounts safely, and your kid will like the taste, and you can further divide the lozenge into smaller amounts if needed. NAC is not ideal, as NAC is only one of 4 ingredients needed to make glutathione, and the high sulfur content of NAC can actually be problematic to your child's gut. And then you need to watch out for liposomal glutathione, as most use the reduced glutathione form and it is not stable. Here's the truth. Some kids will respond within days, Others will take months. Some will need higher doses of folinic acid initially, and then they can taper down. Some won't need it at all once the pathways are open. The goal isn't to be on supplements forever. The goal is to restore your child's natural ability to transport folate into their brain, so you can start today. Go through your pantry, throw out everything with folic acid, schedule a vitamin D test for your child this week, and ask your doctor to order the FRAT test, the folate receptor autoantibody test. If they haven't heard of it, that's normal. It's not taught in med school yet. Bring them this research or find a MAP-certified physician or functional medicine doctor who specializes in this. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for your doctor to catch up on the research. Your child needs this now. If you want to go deeper on how folic acid affects pregnancy and brain development, watch this next video where I break down the connection between Tylenol, folic acid, and autism risk and what every expecting mother needs to know.